What is your "you have become the very thing you swore to destroy" moment? I make commercials for a living. I ducking hate commercials to the core of my soul. Dude, same. I got hired as an animator at an agency not too long ago, so I figured I'd be doing lots of fun and flashy animations. I don't mind making commercials so long as they've got interesting visuals, which is something I greatly enjoy doing. I've been making glorified PowerPoints about Medicare ever since I got hired. I've frequently received feedback to literally make it less fun. A project I made 2 years ago, a fun and flashy internal use video, is getting a new iteration that I'll be doing soon. The old version made setting up web pages and product descriptions look interesting. They said they didn't like it and to have less fun with it, so I plan on being spiteful and making it ducking awful to sit through. The problem with that is that I know that's exactly what they want. I'm reminded of the Pixies from Fairly Odd Parents, and how Timmy and the gang are the exciting antithesis of the drab corporate culture the Pixies represent. I didn't think I'd become one. Lord help me. Edit. To be clear, I understand branding and that sort of thing are very important to follow extremely closely, which includes visual flair or lack thereof. But I became an animator to make interesting motion, and I've done next to zero of that, and it's been driving me crazy. Hit them with that mother ducking star wipe. Every transition star wipes. Put it on a Dutch angle. I told my friends' kids they could have a toy if they didn't fight over it, and if they fought I would take it back. They agreed, then proceeded immediately fight over it when I turned around. Without any conscious input from my brain I span back and heard myself exclaim, "What did I just say?" And suddenly I was my mother. One day I hope you have children that act just like you, the mother's curse. I have always said that if I ever get a time machine I would grab my daughter and travel back to the moment my mom said that and introduce my teen daughter to her, then leave her with my mom and teen me. This is going to end in a recursive cycle wherein your poor mother ends up with an infinite number of misbehaving teens. I teach at my old high school. Literally have coworkers that have sent me to the principal's office before. Our teachers who randomly walk by our noisy classroom would stop and say, "Is this a classroom or a market?" Then we would all settle down. 3 years after school I visited the school and the staff room was noisy with the teachers getting ready for lunch, and I walked in and said, "Hey, is this a staff room or a market?" That was so satisfying. How did they react? Most of them were confused and couldn't recognize me, but my PT, physical training, teacher was like, "You're never too old to run a few laps around the ground till you puke." He once made me run around the school ground till I puked. Yeah, but you're not in a position to make me the perfect duck you, to response. My couch has no less than 8 decorative pillows on it. I am a monster. This is the worst one. Complaining to my son about him playing too much video games. Complaining to my son about him playing too much video games. Jealous? I'm imagining this in the voice of John Lovitz. I was in a computer class in high school and would drive the teachers nuts. I even had the other kids mocking the teachers by shouting out on task. Whenever the teacher would start looking around to make sure we were working. I now teach a high school computer class. A student the other day stopped me before I could tell them to put their phone away and go back to work by saying, I know, on task, on task. I was speechless and just left the student to return to my desk and rethink my life choices. Teacher. Was not a good student. 100% see me doing shit every day. Although I often think, damn, these guys are tame. When I was their age. Then realizing that I'm so glad they are tame in comparison. To be fair, we have a bit of a habit of remembering our childhood years as significantly more badass than they actually were. Reminds me of when I played basketball in college and there was a guy there adamant that him and his friends totally played way harder than this when they were 6 years old. Having riffed games for 6-year-olds, even ones who are very good for that age. No, you did not, my friend. When I set up the website blocker on the company network. I spent so much of my childhood trying to get around those blockers at school, and now I'm the one setting it up. Edit. Admittedly, I'm not so evil as to block things for being categorized as tasteless like my school did. It's really just porn and illegal things, but I still feel slimy for doing it. Edit 2. Also, so be clear, I don't work at a school. My company does, however, employ a lot of salesmen, and they're basically children, so. Those weren't blockers, those are training programs. As I always mention to my clients, there are no perfect defense, only resistance. When there are people who can hack into DARPA, there is nothing can be done to stop them hacking your company system. You can only make it difficult. I just want to say, reading about DARPA's Try and Hack DARPA program led to an hour-long rabbit hole of reading about hacking humans, and I do not recommend this particular hole. It's dark and scary. 90% of good hacking is just social engineering. The shit that social engineer specialist hackers are able to do is just beyond belief. This is what I like about the movie hackers too. They do a lot of social engineering, infiltrating offices to get passwords on post-its, etc. I remember when Mr. Robot came out, there was a companion mobile game that acted like it was your phone. You get blackmailed into helping one of the characters in the show to blackmail in it from a tech company, threatening to tell his wife about his affair or something. You get all their personal information and use it to pressure people to give access. I know it's fiction, but did give a slither of insight into how hacking attempts work out and that it's easier to target somebody with access than to try hack your way it. Growing up, my dad hated going out. When we went on church outings, we were always the first family to leave. He just wanted to stay in and read the paper or watch TV. I vowed to never be as boring as him when I got older. Now that I'm older, nothing makes me happier than when plans get cancelled and I can just chill at home, and not worry about the commute or how much money I'd have to spend going out. Even if it's something I'm looking forward to, like a band I really want to see, part of me still wants to not go because of how crappy the late night commute will be. Something about plans being cancelled is so relieving. It's like, well, I've done all I can to be social, no more pressure today, which I know is probably not healthy, but damn, it feels good lol. I spent a full year living with 4 roommates, one of whom left every pantry door open. I spent months and months trying to catch her in the act. Moved out to my own place, found out it was me all along. Like a horror movie. The doors are being left open. From inside the house. When I was an apprentice electrician, it always pissed me off when my journeyman would make me do the hard manual parts of a job while he did the easier, but more technical work. I always swore that when I got my license and my first apprentice that it'd be different. That went out the window pretty quick. I hated wearing polos because my mom always talked about how nice this other person's son looked wearing polos. I, now, wear polos to work every day because it's the easiest way to dress business casual. They're pretty much just fancy t-shirts. Same for me, but with jeans. When I first started my career in maintenance 28 years ago, all the senior mechanic did was sit inside his shop, bitch and moan about people breaking shit, and soak up cushy repairs on equipment and machinery we could bring to him inside his heated building, while myself and the other guys busted our ducking asses swinging sledgehammers, welding, and lugging tools out into the freezing rain to make repairs. What a worthless piece of shit. After nearly 30 years of swinging sledgehammers, busting my hump out in the cold, pounding rivets and beating steel, I think I've earned the right to sit in my shop while these punk-ass newbies who barely know which end of the screwdriver to hold in their soft, unscarred hands take their turn out in the freezing rain. Especially since they keep breaking shit that would work fine if they would only take care of it and stop abusing equipment. Oh my god. With age comes an understanding. An interesting observation is that every old person was once young. And no young person has ever been old. I certainly do not believe that we should unconditionally respect and defer to our elders. Some of them have not learned a thing in the last 50 years. But the ones that have adapted, that have paid attention and learned, they are huge sources of wisdom. And they often will not try to push it on you because they also know most people are not ready to listen. So if you do get the opportunity to learn from such a person, take it. Youth cannot know how age thinks and feels. But old men are guilty if they forget what it was to be young. Youth cannot know how age thinks and feels. But old men are guilty if they forget what it was to be young. It's a challenge, but very true. I'm in my 70s and can't stand hip-hop and don't think much of tattoos, but I'll eat a hamburger bun slathered in dog shit before I'll ask someone younger, how do you listen to that garbage? Or offer an unsolicited, that will look like hell when you're old. I heard too much of that crap myself back in the 60s about rock and long hair. If I ever forget this and you hear me say something remotely like that, the buns are in the bread box and the dog shit's out in the yard.